When you think of ancient Egypt, what comes to mind? Towering pyramids, golden-faced pharaohs, and mysterious hieroglyphs, right? It's an image of a civilization already at its peak, a powerhouse of the ancient world. But what if I told you that this familiar Egypt, the Egypt of Tutankhamun and Ramesses the Great, is only part of the story? What if the most crucial chapters, the ones that made it all possible, have been largely forgotten? Today, we're journeying back in time, far beyond the age of the pyramids, to a period shrouded in sand and mystery. We're going to uncover predynastic Egypt, the long, formative era that laid the foundation for one of history's greatest civilizations. This is the story of Egypt before it was Egypt, the tale of its forgotten beginning. Our journey starts around 6000 BCE. Forget the sprawling cities and monumental temples for a moment. Instead, picture this. The Sahara Desert wasn't a desert at all. It was a lush green savanna, dotted with lakes and teeming with wildlife. This was the world of Egypt's earliest ancestors, nomadic hunter-gatherers who roamed the land, following the herds and the seasons. They left behind tantalizing clues, incredible rock art depicting giraffes, elephants, and scenes of daily life in a world that seems almost alien to us now. But the climate is a fickle thing. Over thousands of years, the rains began to fail. The Green Sahara started its slow, relentless transformation into the arid desert we know today. This dramatic environmental shift forced people to find a new source of life, a new place to call home. And they found it in a thin green ribbon of fertile land snaking through the desert. The Nile Valley. The Nile wasn't just a river. It was a lifeline. Its predictable annual flood, the inundation, deposited a layer of rich, black silt onto the surrounding plains, creating incredibly fertile soil. This natural miracle made agriculture not just possible, but highly productive. Around 5500 BCE, people began to settle down along the riverbanks, trading their nomadic lifestyle for a more sedentary one. They started farming wheat and barley and herding cattle, sheep, and goats. This shift from hunting and gathering to farming was one of the most significant moments in human history, and in Egypt, it happened right here. Small villages sprouted up along the Nile. These weren't grand cities yet, but tight-knit communities learning to harness the power of the river. This early period is often called the Neolithic, or New Stone Age, and it was a time of incredible innovation. Archaeologists have uncovered several distinct cultures from this era, each with its own unique style of pottery, tools, and burial customs. In the north, around modern-day Cairo, we find the Marind culture. These people lived in simple oval huts, partly dug into the ground, and they created some of the earliest human sculptures in Egypt. Their pottery was simple but functional, designed for storing grain and water. Further south, in Upper Egypt, we find the Badarian culture, which flourished around 4400 BCE. The Badarians are famous for their incredibly fine pottery. So thin and beautifully polished, it's known as eggshell ware. But what's truly fascinating about the Badarians is what their graves tell us. They buried their dead carefully in oval pits, wrapped in animal skins or mats, and surrounded them with personal belongings. Pottery vessels, cosmetic palettes for grinding eye paint, and ivory combs. Why is this so important? Because it shows us the beginnings of complex beliefs about the afterlife. These weren't just random burials, they were ritualistic. The objects placed in the graves were meant for the deceased to use in the next world. This fundamental belief that life continues after death would become a central pillar of ancient Egyptian religion for the next 3,000 years. The seeds were sown here, in these simple predynastic graves. As we move forward in time to around 4000 BCE, these early cultures evolved into what is known as the Naqada period, named after the site of Naqada in Upper Egypt. This period is so crucial that archaeologists divide it into 3 phases, Naqada I, II, and III, and it's during this time that things really start to accelerate. The villages grew larger, becoming more like towns. Trade flourished, not just up and down the Nile, but with neighboring regions like Mesopotamia and Nubia. We find materials like lapis lazuli from far-off Afghanistan, a testament to these extensive trade networks. Technology also advanced. The pottery became even more elaborate, decorated with intricate designs of boats, animals, and human figures. These scenes are like a window into their world, showing us their fascination with the river and the forces of nature. One of the most iconic artifacts from this period is the cosmetic palette. What started as a simple, functional slab for grinding minerals for eye paint transformed into a canvas for incredible artistic expression. Palettes were carved into the shapes of animals, fish, turtles, birds, and eventually, they became ceremonial objects used to record important events. This is the very beginning of the Egyptian tradition of using art to tell stories and record history. But the most significant development during the Naqada period was the rise of social complexity. In the early villages, everyone was more or less equal. But now, we start to see signs of a hierarchy. Some tombs are much larger and richer than others, filled with luxury goods like gold, imported pottery, and beautifully crafted flint knives. This suggests the emergence of a powerful elite chiefs or local rulers who controlled more resources and held more authority than everyone else. These proto-kingdoms began to compete with each other for land, trade routes, and power. The decorations on pottery and palettes start to show scenes of conflict and warfare, stick figures engaged in battle, and powerful leaders smiting their enemies. Society was organizing itself, consolidating power into the hands of a few. The Naqada, 2 and 3 periods, from about 3500 to 3000 BCE, represent the final dramatic sprint toward unification. Several powerful regional centers emerged, most notably Hierakonpolis and Abydos in the south, and Naqada itself. These were the first true cities of Egypt, with temples, administrative buildings, and elite cemeteries. At Hierakonpolis, archaeologists discovered Tomb 100, the famous painted tomb. Its walls were decorated with the earliest known painted scene in Egypt, depicting boats, animals, and what appears to be a ruler figure in a scene of combat. This tomb belonged to a powerful leader, a proto-pharaoh, who ruled a significant portion of Upper Egypt long before the country was unified. This is where the story gets really exciting. The leaders of these southern kingdoms, particularly Hierakonpolis and later Abydos, began a campaign of expansion. They pushed north, conquering or absorbing the smaller settlements in their path. For generations, Egypt was effectively divided into two lands: Upper Egypt in the south, the land of the White Crown, and Lower Egypt in the north, the land of the Red Crown. The final act of this prehistoric drama was the unification of these two lands into a single state under one ruler. For centuries, this event was credited to a legendary king named Menes, but modern archaeology has given us a more complex and fascinating picture. The unification was likely a gradual process, but it culminated around 3100 BCE under a ruler whose name we actually know, Narmer. The proof? The incredible Narmer palette, one of the most important artifacts ever found in Egypt. Discovered at Hierakonpolis, this ceremonial palette depicts King Narmer in stunning detail. On one side, he wears the white crown of Upper Egypt, triumphantly striking down an enemy. On the other side, he wears the red crown of Lower Egypt, inspecting rows of decapitated foes. He is shown as the undisputed ruler of both lands. This single object marks the symbolic birth of the Egyptian state. It's the moment the predynastic period ends and the dynastic period begins. With Narmer, we have the first king of the first dynasty, the first pharaoh to rule over a unified Egypt. The stage was now set. With a single ruler, a centralized government, and the collective resources of the entire Nile Valley, Egypt was ready to explode onto the world stage. Within a few short centuries, Narmer's successors would organize the labor and wealth of the nation to build the impossible, the Great Pyramids of Giza. So, the next time you look at a picture of the Sphinx or the pyramids, remember that they weren't the beginning. They were the culmination of a journey that lasted thousands of years. A journey that began in the Green Sahara, was nurtured by the Nile, and forged in the conflict and creativity of the predynastic peoples. They were the ones who developed the religion, the art, the social structure, and the very concept of kingship that would define Egypt for millennia. They are the forgotten architects of a civilization, and their story is the true beginning of ancient Egypt. Thanks for joining us on this journey back to the dawn of Egypt. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the past, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more hidden histories. Let us know in the comments what ancient mystery you'd like us to explore next. See you in the next one.